This is Dr. D. David Schultz. I'm doing a career interview for the Hannibal TV. And I'm doing a career interview so you folks will all know about me and my book. Don't call me fake. And you better get out there and you better get your book, because if you don't, I may have to come up and...
What was your childhood like?
Rough childhood. Very rough. It was like a small farm, but we had to, we had to go kill our chickens, we had to cut their heads off, we had to gather the eggs up, we had to go kill the pigs, had to get the lard, had to get the cracklings, the chitlins and everything out of the pig. Hey, it was a hard life, but I survived. It didn't hurt me. I mean, it made me a better person, I think, It just happened to get up and work every day and had something to do. Always had something to do.
Was that hard for you, like at a young age, to kill animals, or were you just growing up by that?
Well, not really, because we wanted to eat, that we had to kill them. Like rabbit, squirrel, or what. We go out and look for deer. We never did kill a deer, though. I don't think. We always too noisy playing around. But rabbits, you just go down on the river, the water comes out, and hit them in the head with a brick. I never had to clean them. I give them to the other guy, I give them to my mother or my aunt or whatever, and they go in there and they clean them, And then we go fishing, catch fish. They knew how to do all that. Easy. They clean a chicken in a minute. I'd be a week cleaning the chicken,
And I heard you on Steve Austin's podcast talking about your toughness came from when you were growing up. People would try and steal from you, and you basically had to fight them.
Well, they just take it from you. They try to take it from you, and you had to. If you wanted to keep it, you had to fight. And I learned at a young age, hey, if I am going to keep what I got, and people are not going, I'm not going to let people take it away from me. If I did let them take it away from me, I'd go home. My father would say, hey, don't come in here whining and crying. You should have picked up a stick and hit him upside the head and took it back, or whatever, And I had one guy instantly stole my newspapers one day. And the next day, he just happened to meet up with a brick bat, we called them. He didn't steal my papers no more. As a matter of fact, I took his papers to repay me for what he took the day before.
And you did some bootlegging too, according to your book. How did you get into that?
Well, we used to hang around with a lot of the hobos, the hobo camps down at, the trains come through Jackson, Tennessee. And when they're coming in, going north, they had to slow down for the yard, where they turned and hook everything up in the yard. They had to slow down. And all these the hobos knew where, you go down there, that'd be 10, 15 guys down there cooking stew and whatever they get. And they treated us great, man. They treated us like family, And they showed us how to catch the train, and we'd ride it into Jackson about 3 or 4 miles because it was slowing down. Now, you can't catch it another mile down the road. It's running too fast. You can't jump it. So we knew how to jump it and ride it down to the yard. Just before the yard we'd get off, and we'd walk around to the other side of the yard when they're coming out, because they're going slow coming out too, and we'd jump them again and ride on around. We had a good way to get around. My mother, she knew it. We wouldn't do it no more probably, but we was always wanting to do something.
Yeah.
If it was there, we was going to do it.
And you had some boxing training when you were younger. Did you ever have any aspirations on being a pro boxer?
No, I started out, I was 12 years old. I weighed 165 pounds. And I got in there, and I in the Golden Gloves, they put me in with people who've been boxing 5-6 years, heavyweights and all that, because I was heavyweight, 165 pounds. And they just beat the heck out of me, and I don't think this is for me. When I got hit in the ear with a 16-ounce glove and busted my eardrum, I could drink coffee the next morning and turn my head over, and the coffee come out my ear.
Wow.
Now, you got hit hard with a 16-ounce glove, right? I mean, I don't think I need to do this, But that's just another thing. I was too, I don't know, I wasn't clumsy, but I just wasn't fast enough, to, get everything. I mean, these guys they've been trained for years and years and years, and they put me in there with them.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay with them,
And you did have some hand-to-hand combat training as well, I guess, right?
Yes. That was just basic stuff, though, how to take care of yourself. And I got more training from Herb Welch than I did ever in the service or ever anywhere. I didn't know a person could hurt so bad, get stretched so bad and hurt so bad until Herb Welch got a hold of me. And he showed me I would starve to death if he didn't let me go. I mean, there's no getting out of these holes that he put you in.
And before I ask you about Herb Welch, I'm going to go into that, but I read something in your book that was a bit disturbing. You were saying that you heard of American soldiers getting skinned alive in Vietnam. I never heard that before, but...
Yeah, we, they would tell us stories about it in basic training, the drill sergeants, and they said they didn't like to talk about it, but they run up on a lot of guys that was... skinned alive, hanging in the trees and stuff, and they just, I don't know how they knew they were skinned alive, but they were skinned and nothing but their, And I've got a buddy that, good friend of mine, we grew up together, and he was in Nam, two of them was, and they went all through Nam together, and he was telling me stories about what they did, and it was just horrible what they went through, and he didn't really get into the details, but he just said, hey, it was search and destroy. Anything and everything that lived or walked, kill it. And I said, how does that affect you, Richard? He said, man, it was bad. It was really bad, but if you don't kill them, they'll probably kill you. So I said, what about the kids and stuff? Is this something you had to do? He said, you was under orders to do it. Everything. And the way he talked, kids would walk up with grenades on them, anything. I guess they would. I mean, I'd hate to be in that position, to kill a bunch of kids. I don't know. I guess I'd go AWOL. I'd go the other way. I wouldn't want to kill a bunch of kids,
Did you ever talk to Jesse Ventura in later years about military stuff?
I didn't talk to him about the military, but we used to talk a lot, but not... he didn't really push his SEAL thing, he was more just flamboyant, he didn't really sit around and talk about it, but I'm sure he had some stories too that, most people don't talk about it, and I was just lucky, I didn't go to Nam, I ended up in Germany, but that was bad enough now. Being in the field, Grafenbeer, Germany, and Gildenhausen, Germany, and standing out there for 90 days in the ice and cold, and sleeping in those tanks, and no showers, no nothing for 90 days. I mean, and eating out of sea rations, and then you get ready to go back to the barracks. They tell you, oh, we got to stay another 90 days. Harassment. That's when the Cold War was going, where we was on call, we'd go on alert and all that, and be out there for 3 or 4 days waiting to move into Czechoslovakia, different places, It's just a game they played.
Yeah.
They got to do something with you. I mean, make you feel like you're doing something right. I mean,
how did the German people treat you at that time? Because I guess we had just defeated them, basically.
No, they was real nice. I mean, I like Germany. I was there almost 3 years, and I really liked it. Of course, there's some people that didn't, but what the Americans did when they went over there, anything they destroyed, the government pay it, on tanks and stuff. They go out and they destroy fields of apple trees and all that, and they had to pay for that apple tree, all the apples that would grow on that apple tree for years to come, and that's what we was told. And of course, we was told a lot of things that we probably wasn't absolutely 100% true, but you can't question them. I mean, captains and colonel majors and all that telling you this stuff, and you're thinking they won't lie to you, just like a wrestling promoter. They're not going to lie to you. Yeah, right.
And you started telling us about Herb Welch. How did you end up meeting Herb Welch in the first place?
I was running an auction settling truck. I was a certified welder, state of Tennessee, and I went to auction settling company, and they needed a driver to deliver a route driver. And I went by Herb's house one day, and you could tell it was his house. He had all these concrete animals in his yard, and everybody always talked about it. And I stopped the truck and talked to him, told him I'd like to get into professional wrestling. I heard he was starting up a school. He said, "Okay, kid." After a while, he said, "Be here Tuesday night, and we'll see what you got." And he charged me $300. And at that time, $300 was a lot of money, And so he took me in the ring, and he was 66 or 67 years old then, and he beat me so bad. And see, back then, he wanted to hurt you, make you quit, get out of the business, that's it. That was the way they did it. They didn't let people walk in and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make you a star because you're 400 pounds," No, you had to prove that you could take care of yourself, and you wanted it. So the first night I went home, I sat in the drive, blowing the horn, getting my wife to come out and open the door and help me lift my legs up to get them out of the car. And I couldn't lift my arms. I mean, people that's never experienced it, I'm sure you have, the pain that you go through, and and they say, "Oh, you'll be okay a couple of days, fight through it, it'll be okay, be okay." So I went, she got me in the house and got me in the shower, hot shower, and then took a cold shower, went to bed. Got up 3 or 4 hours later, and I still wasn't feeling bad. Got in the hot shower, went to work. I was building chain link fences, and that was a pretty hard job too. And after the days moving on, I started loosening up a little bit, still hurting. And then Thursday, I'd go back. I went back down there, and just like same thing again. I'm driving home 45 miles. When I get home, I had to blow the horn. "I need some help. I can't get my legs up. Can't get them out." And Herb was purposely stretching me. He put moves on me that I don't know what they were, but it was. He was a master at stretching people, a shooter, and that's what he did. He would go to the carnivals. He would tell me about going to the carnivals and challenge anybody in the carnival, anybody. And it wasn't a setup either. He'd go, "Anybody, $100 if you can stay in the ring 3 minutes." And he said most of them didn't last 30 seconds. Big guys, all well guys, all huge monster. He used to talk about it. Herb's hand was like that, one hand. And when he hit you, he'd hit you hard. And I didn't mind getting hit, but then he started bringing wrestlers in to work out with me. And he never told me anything about taking it easy. So these wrestlers told Herb, "Hey, you need to tell this kid something, because we're gonna get hurt, or he's gonna get hurt. And we're going to get hurt trying not to hurt him. But we got to protect ourselves, because this guy is hard to handle, And finally, Herb took me outside about 3 months. He said, "You're not going to make a dime doing the way you're doing." I said, "What are you talking about, Herb?" He said, "You're hurting these guys, or causing them to hurt themselves because you're too stiff." I said, "Well, I'm trying to wrestle them." And he said, "No, forget everything I told you. Forget all that stuff. Don't forget it. Put it back in your mind. But don't forget it. You're going to need it one day. If you go overseas, you're going to need it. But don't let any promoter know that you can take care of yourself, because you've come out pretty good. You've learned how to take care of yourself. Because if you do, they're not going to use you. They're not going to put no belt on you, because nobody can take it off of you." And I said, I was confused then. He said, "I'm going to show you how to do it." And then he took me in there and he said, "Instead of taking the guy here and trying to break his wrist, take it and just, you'll get the same results. Nobody in the crowd can feel what you're doing. They can't feel the pain. And they can't feel if you've got a guy in a front face lock and you've got his jawbone caught, or you got his head caught. You got his head caught, ain't going to hurt him. You hook the jawbone, you're going to hurt him. And that's what he taught me how to do, you know. Anyway, it worked out real good. After that, he got me some first matches up in Malden, Missouri. I'd wrestle about 5 times a night. I'd go out as a single and then come back in a tag and then come back in a 6-man tag, and then I'd put a mask on, come out and wrestle a masked man, and I'd come out wrestling Battle Royal. But every time I come out, people didn't know who I was on the mask, and a great experience. And he said, you need this to learn how people react to you, and these people are the backwoods peoples in Malden, Missouri. Every week, man, packed that furniture store upstairs, you know. But you got a lot of experience. Had a lot of knives thrown at you, scissors, bricks, and stuff. You know, people would bring them to the match. They'd throw them at you in the ring.
Now, someone asked me to ask you, I already know the answer to this, but would you have gone into MMA if it had existed in those days?
Oh, yeah.
But you thought wrestling was MMA, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea. MMA didn't exist at that time, you know. And I don't know if I'd been able to do it, though, the demanding training. I mean, I'm sure I was, because I was always anything. Nothing blew me up, and I loved contact, you know.
Yeah.
And once I get into wrestling, and I knew that I could beat people with just a slight move. I could hook them, and I felt powerful then. You know, you control people, and you know, you go out on the street, you take your family out to eat, you don't worry about anybody. I mean, that's a feeling that everybody needs to have, but they won't. I mean, people go home, get their wife, get their kids, they go out and eat. They're scared to death. They don't want to go here because this here might happen, go here, this might happen, you know. And they got to be on pins and needles. And I'm not. And I'm sure you're not. It don't bother you where you go, because you can take care of yourself. And, you know, most of these people never will experience that in their whole life, having the ability to go and do what they want to do without any fear, you know.
And one thing I found very interesting in your book is you said Herb Welch would, if he was wrestling someone he didn't like, he would wipe human feces under his armpit.
Oh yeah, he would. If they didn't take showers and stuff like that, he told me, he said, yeah, David, I'd go out and I'd get this guy and I'd grab him in the headlock and, you know, and he'd lock down on him and he wouldn't let him go. And you couldn't get out of the headlock with Herb, you know. And Herb used to like to pull jokes on people, you know, like people, like I done it a couple of times. They would, you know, I always went in the shower and I used good shampoo and bleach, because I bleached my hair, you know, with conditioner and stuff. And this one guy, I noticed he was getting my shampoo. So I said, well, let me show this guy. Let me treat this guy up here. So we got some hair remover. And I put it in that bottle, the shampoo, and I set it out like it was my shampoo.
Yeah.
And he had all the hair. And then the next night he did it again. The next night, then his hair started falling out. He said, man, my hair is coming out. He's pulling out. Nair. It was Nair what we put in there. Just squeezed in. And within 3 or 4 weeks, he was bald almost. He was, you know, I think he quit using other people's shampoo after that. You know, he wouldn't ask either, you know.
And on that subject, you're lucky you still have good hair after all these years.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for Jerry Jarrett, he's somewhat of a controversial promoter. Some people like him, some people don't. What are your thoughts on him?
Jerry, when I was working for him, he was with Nick Goulas, and they split.
Right. Everyone hates Nick Goulas that I've heard.
And Nick Goulas was Nick was a great businessman, and you know the stories he would tell me about being sitting in the back of the seat, and the wrestlers put their feet on him. Be 4 or 5 wrestlers going to a match in a car, and he'd be in the back seat, and he'd have to go and poster the town. Well, later on, he'd go and tell Roy Welch, he'd say, hey, let me poster this town. And then Roy said, you poster it, you can run it. And then he started getting his own towns, and that's the way Nick got, you know, where he did. Jerry Jarrett was, he was okay. His mother was in it, Christine was in it, and he never really did me bad. I mean, you know, he could have did a lot better towards me. He was Jerry Lawler. He wanted Jerry Lawler, everything Jerry Lawler, and eventually Lawler and him got together, partners or whatever, and course, Lawler took everything himself, you know, and he didn't want to push nobody but him. And he definitely didn't want to push me. And I was partnered with him for a long time after Sam Bass passed away, you know.
So how did you find Jerry Jarrett as a mind for the business?
Back then it was pretty good, but I don't know if he was doing it all. I don't know if Christine was doing a lot of it, telling him what to do, or Lawler was telling him what to do. They put their heads together, you know, and then Dundee got in there. He worked his way right in there with them, you know, and
we were supposed to also interview him today, but I guess he had some type of anxiety attack. And
he heard I was going to be here. Bill gets kind of nervous around me. He told me, he said, "You always been an ass, ain't you?" I said, "Yep, and it still will be." Let me tell you what I used to do with Bill. You'll get a kick out of this. I mean, if you don't want to use it, fine. But they would pay you a pay slip, and I'd work with Bill, you know, every night, and I'd get my pay slip, and say for instance it'd be $2,500, and I'd take it and I'd go, everybody watches the reaction of your face and stuff. So I said, whew, okay. So I'd go over and I'd change that to $2,500 into $4,500. And then I'd go back in there, everybody's looking at pay slips and everybody's mad, everybody's always upset about their money and all. I'm sitting there and said, wow, man, that was a nice week. And Dundee's running around like, I can't understand why I'm so happy. I was okay, I mean, you know, but I wanted him, so I took my slip and tore it up, threw it in the garbage, and walked out of the dressing room. So, of course, the guys run over and grabbed it and give it to Dundee. Dundee grabbed it, run straight into Lawler and Jerry Jarrett and said, "Why did Schultz get $4,500 and I got $2,500? I work with him every night." And they said, "Oh my God, Bill, when are you going to quit letting David get to you?" I mean, he was so easy to get to. We took his shirts one time, you know, and pulled the tags out of them, and he told us he wore extra large shirts, and we sewed small tags in his shirt, and showed all the boys he was wearing a small size shirt instead of extra large. He didn't like that either, because he always buy the extra large and heat them up where they'd shrink, and they, you know.
Did he have a small man's complex?
Oh yeah, he got that. Yeah, I used to stand up on him in the ring. I'd either get down and he'd make me mad. I said, "I'll stand up on you." And when I did, I'm like, 2 feet tall. You know? But a good guy though. Besides all that, you know, but he heard I was going to be here. I'm sure I didn't mean to mess that up. I mean, yeah.
Well, we came here for you, and he was just going to be a bonus for our fans. But and for the Dr. D name, you're more known as Dr. D than Dr. Death. But was there ever any conflict between you and Steve Williams about having that?
No. When I left Vince, or Vince got through with me, they wanted Steve Williams to be used Dr. Death. He wanted to use Dr. D, but I had it copyrighted. He couldn't use it, so they put him in there as Dr. Death, and thought they'd feed off of me, you know. I was never called Dr. Death, but they did call me Dr. Death, but I mean, I never publicized it, you know. They was trying to give him some heat, you know, that's what Vince would do.
And what are your first memories of meeting Hulk Hogan back when he was Sterling Golden?
Well, he come into Panama City Beach, and we worked for Ron Fuller. He come in there, and he was green as a big guy, huge guy, but knew nothing. And we become friends, and you know, I started working out with him because I never was a person to work out. And I'd give him his shots, his steroid shots, because he couldn't reach around to take them, you know, and all that. And I told him, I said, "Boy, these things are going to kill you. You're taking more than a racehorse." And yeah, but I want to, you know, I'm hanging and banging, and when they carry me out, I want these guns hanging out of the casket. Well, they will be hanging out of the casket, and you with it, you know. But you couldn't talk to him. But we were good friends for probably 15 years, and worked out all the time together. And he stayed at my house when he come down. He didn't have no money to get a room, sleeping in his van, so my wife and me said, come on in and sleep in our extra room, and we become good friends. And then Vince told him either Schultz or me, because he started whining that I was too rough on him and that I was going to beat him in a live TV show and take the belt. And you had to treat him like a kid, man. You say, you big dummy, why
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat you in the middle of the ring. I can beat you anytime I get ready. That might be harder to do than you think. Oh, really? And I'd grab him in his own living room and throw him on the floor, and we'd start, But, he never was a wrestler. I mean, never was if he got a hold of you, he was powerful, he was strong, but he didn't know how to get a hold of you. So if you knew any moves at all, you could out-wrestle him,
Right.
But
his cardio probably wasn't too good either, I'd imagine.
No, it wasn't, no.
Now, I read Bret Hart's book, and I thought that was interesting at the time that I read it, that he claimed that Hogan beat you in a little amateur scuffle, but you addressed that yourself in your book. So why do you think Bret came up with that?
I think he got carried away because the guys was in the dressing room. I remember it was in Baltimore, I believe it was, and me and Hogan always was scuffling, like I told you, in his house. We'd always, and the guys didn't know what was going on. Oh my God, it's Schultz and Hogan, they're having it out tonight or whatever. And I think it's kind of like what Vince thought too, because the guys didn't know what we was doing. And come on. I told Bret, I said, Bret, you're mistaken. There's no two men the size of me and Hogan, I was 300 pounds, can fight for 45 minutes. It can't be done.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, well, it wasn't supposed to be 40. I think it was a misprint, and they let it go. And Bret got tied up in the moment, because Bret knows that Hogan could have never, ever beat me. He couldn't beat my wife, let alone me. But
doesn't sound like you could be your wife.
No, I couldn't. I just fixed to say you didn't let me finish. I can't beat her either, But we was all. Hogan. He was one of the closest friends I ever had. And then he dropped me like boom, that when Vince told him. And you learn later on, most of your friends will stab you in the back and twist a knife, and it will happen. And people say, oh no, it won't happen. Oh yes, believe me, it will happen.
Especially in the wrestling business.
That's right. The wrestlers, hey, they will lie to you, and the promoters will lie and promise and tell. I don't know how many times I've been told, hey kid, stay right here. We gonna put the belt on you. You're gonna be the champion. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, they want to remove you to Knoxville, and you go over there. They got big plans for you. Yeah. Oh, they're gonna move you to Oregon. They got big plans for you. You're doing good. They need a guy out there. Never happens, and you had to fight your way through. I finally got a break in with the Emile Dupree up in Nova Scotia for 1 year, and then after that, Stu Hart. I went there for 3 years. And that was the best promoters I ever worked for at that time, was those two. And Stu always treated me, he always wanted to get me to the dungeon. I said, no, I'm not going to the dungeon. But Stu, I respected him. He would, and Bret, when I started working with Bret was, he was okay. He just needed a little polishing, and you don't get that unless you get out there and do it every night, and then you learn. And he turned out real good after he got the break with Vince, and he turned out real good.
Now, Emile Dupree's son, he wrestles for our company in Canada, so I'll have to ask you about that, or his son's gonna get on my case about why I didn't ask you more about Emile Dupree's territory. So could you just give a brief synopsis?
Emile, when I went there to Nova Scotia, I had no idea about Nova Scotia. I just knew it was Canada. a lot of moose and all this year, but I went there and I became the champion, and working with Leo Burke and the Cormier brothers and different ones that had been wrestling there for years and years and years, and it was so easy. The people were so nice. I mean, and the towns were so small. They was all within the whole
you were
territory.
based in Moncton, right, or something?
Yeah, in Moncton, and we'd North Sydney, we'd go there, and different play Halifax, and packed houses. And Emile Dupree had been there a long time. I never heard of him before until I went there. Nice guy, always paid me the money he's supposed to, never cheated me any way at all, and I finished the season and just never went back because I was in Calgary for 3 years after that.
And I guess you had one fan attack incident there where you saved Dennis Condry's life, I guess, with a hockey stick.
Yeah, Dennis and Phil was in a ring and nobody could get them out, and a lot of hockey sticks over there because they get broke, and I'd grab one up, and I had a lot of fans over there I did hit with hockey sticks. I mean, but they was in the ring and they wasn't gonna let them out, so I took the hockey stick and started swinging it and cleared them away, because that thing makes a bad sound, and it'd get them out enough, and they got out of the ring and got to the dressing room, and they both said, Phil Hickerson and Dennis, and man, you saved our life. I don't think it was that big, but
the fans are crazy there, because I even actually had some fans attack me there about 10 years ago.
Yes.
Edmundston, New
Oh
Brunswick.
yeah, Edmonton. Yeah, they will. Hey, they will attack you now. I mean, I went to Campbellton. Took my wife and daughter over there. I think it's Campbellton, an island over there.
Yeah.
And the guy jumped up the ringside and he said, "I'm gonna kill you, Schultz." And I said, "Well, come on." He started through the ropes. Boom! I nailed him. He went on the floor. I jumped out. It just happened his head hit the post after I kicked him and knocked him out. So they bring the paramedics, they ring the bell, bring the paramedics, and I get out of there and get to the dressing room, get a shower real quick shower, and my wife and daughter was trying to get to the car, and they were standing at the back door, and the police wouldn't help them out or anything. So I said, "Hang on just a minute, let me go get my old hockey stick." I went and got the hockey stick and got them to the car, put them in the car, and took off and hit 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
But they were just ricocheting off, But that boy was still laying there. The ambulance was taking him off. I don't know what happened to him. Several of them got carried off in ambulances over there.
I guess you didn't have a gun when you wrestled in Canada.
No.
For the most part.
No.
It would have been important in the U.S., I assume, back in those days to carry a weapon with you of some sort.
Used to, we carried rifles in our truck in the window. I mean, we just put them in the window. It wasn't all this big problem we had. We used to go out and fight every week. Nobody had a gun.
Yeah.
Nobody had a knife. I got a problem with you. Hey, we're going to fight Friday night. We're going to do it at Wells Park. Everybody be there. Word to get out. Man, you draw a big crowd. And you go out there and fight. And when it's over, hey, we go back to school. Next week, we're playing ball together and everything. It's over, And if we want to redo it, then we'll redo it, But it's kind of fun,
Yeah.
We had something to do,
Now, back to the Stampede territory. Who actually recommended you for the Stampede territory? Because that's not a very pleasant area to go. That's where I was actually trained. But for someone from the south to go to those frigid temperatures,
well, it was from. I went to Japan with Keith Hart, and he told his dad about me. And then the Cuban assassin from Cormier over there in Nova Scotia, he went straight to Calgary every year.
Yeah, they would come back in the winter.
And they started talking about me, and Stu said, "Well, I think we need to give him a try, And after I got there, Stu said, "Yeah, this guy's great, man. He's going to do great." And I stayed there 3 years. And had the biggest houses they ever had. I mean, we was packing them in. It was so easy, I mean, working with Brett and Saito. Cuban Assassin. These guys was all good workers, you know, and the people were so close in these buildings. They're right there with you, you know, and they didn't like me, but they did like me, but they didn't like me. But they knew when they left, they had a show. They was happy. They weren't happy, they were mad or whatever, but they were satisfied. They didn't get ripped off, you know. And we had some barn burners over there, man.
They had a lot of different bookers in Stampede, but I guess Bruce would have been maybe one of the main bookers at the time you were there.
Yeah, I think he called himself a booker, yeah.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on his booking style?
Well, he liked to bring the English guys in, small guys, because he was a small guy. And he didn't like the big guys. And, you know, when he'd get in the ring with me, he would, you know, he would just go crazy, you know. And I told him one night, I said, Bruce, if you hit me in my mouth tonight, I'm gonna hurt you. And all of a sudden, here comes Bruce making his comeback. He hits me right in my hard. And when he did, I come from Mama's house. Boom. Broke his nose all up, man. Blood poured out of his eyes, his face. They took him to the hospital. He got all kinds of stitches and stuff. And Stu said, and David, you kind of laid it in on him, didn't he? And I said, yeah, I did, Sue. He said, yeah, the little bastard can take it, though. He can take it. That's good. That's good. He come back, his nose all over. I said, Bruce, you moved. Why didn't you stay still? You moved. That was my main thing when I hit somebody hurt. I said, why'd you move? Well, they go, move.
And you actually brought up an incident, speaking of that, in your book that Dynamite Kid referred to in his book, where there was something similar that happened in a match with Dynamite around that time, where I guess he was stiffed or something, and you were stiffed by Dynamite, and he came back to confront you, and you guys ended up making up.
Yeah, we was just, something happened in the match. He was pretty stiff, and I got back stiff with him and all this, and we just discussed it, and it was over. Me and Dynamite, great friends, you know. Yeah. He was kind of upset he never could beat me arm wrestling, but, you know, that's...
Because I guess you guys would have been probably known as the toughest two in this history of Stampede Wrestling, which was known for tough wrestlers.
Yeah. Dynamite was a tough kid, man. And then, of course, David Boy came over, and, you know, he weighed 170 pounds when he got there, and when he left, he weighed 300 before he died, I think, so. But that's amazing that somebody would destroy his life with that many anabolic steroids and stuff. And, I mean... But then you look at Hogan, look at him. I mean, I thought this guy'd been dead a long time ago. I can't believe he's still living.
Yeah, and actually Superstar Billy Graham as well. He took a lot, and he's still alive. He just turned 75, I think. Yeah. And Davey Boy Smith's son is friends with me, and he wanted me to ask you your memories of your 1984 New Japan tour with the Bulldogs, if you have any recollection of that.
Well, we just had a good time. You know, when you put Dynamite and Davey Boy together, and then you put me in there with them, that's really, you know, that's kind of like you got a keg, you're putting Dynamite in it, and Davey Boy and Dynamite in that keg, and then they bring me in, I'm the fuse. So we was always doing things that, you know, I mean, it was a great tour, man. 5 weeks of nothing but didn't know what was going to happen the next day, you know. And when we was in the ring, we really made the Japanese wrestlers, oh, they come out, most of the thing, all they can say is, oh. But Inoki, he liked it, and Baba, they liked it, and the boys didn't like it, but we didn't abuse them. We just made them work real hard.
And the last thing for Stampede for now, who would have won in a shoot between Roy Welch and Stu Hart?
Ooh, that would have been between Herb Welch and Stu Hart.
Herb Welch.
Not Roy, okay.
Sorry.
Herb Welch and Stu Hart. That'd been a hard call right there, because Stu Hart used to tell me about Luther Lindsay was his Memphis, you know, that's one he always wanted, you know. Yeah. But Stu Hart and Herb Welch is a hard man. He was a hard man to beat, the way I heard, and I'd hate to know I had to go in there and beat him. I mean, especially in his prime, you know. But he was 67 years old, 66 years old when he trained me. I wouldn't want to try to beat him then, let alone when he's 40, he would have been awful hard to beat, you know.
And you avoided the dungeon from what I understand.
Oh yeah, no, didn't go to the dungeon. I always told Stu, I said, hey, you get the Holt on me. I'm not going to give you a Holt and let you torture me. I know the young kid that Owen.
Yeah.
He used to come in the dressing room when he was young. He was a good amateur wrestler, and him and I would wrestle in the dressing room. And every once in a while, I'd hook him. Stu'd walk in, and of course, Stu's famous saying was, "Hey, it looks like you got that little bastard in a pretty tight situation there, David." I'll say, "Yeah. Why don't he get out of it?" I don't think he can. And anyway, it was Owen was great though, man. He was great kid, and he loved to get on the floor in the wrestling in the dressing room.
Was it in Stampede where you teamed with Honky Tonk Man? Or was that
no, that was in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, and then I come back to Stampede after I left. He came in, and then I went back to work with him in matches for the belt.
Okay.
And I ain't seen him since, you know.
Because he's wrestled for many years for our company, he doesn't anymore, but he always spoke very highly of you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you wrote in your book that there was a quote about him saying that you came up with the name WrestleMania.
Yes.
He actually told that to me personally.
Yes.
And he also told me that it was your idea to initially bring in Mr. T because he said you would make the rhyme Dr. D and Mr. T all the time.
We were always talking about that, and when I come up with the WrestleMania, they had Hulkamania, and I come up and said, we need to call this thing WrestleMania. And then Vince gets a hold of it, and of course I had nothing to do with it.
Right.
But and Mr. T, see, everybody, the night they said that I was bothering Mr. T, we had a picture taken together. It's in the book.
Yeah.
And that was taken just before I went out to the ring. Mr. T was back there talking to me in the dressing room. And they said I was the danger. The police hog-tied me and held guns to my head and, you know, took me out like I was,
Right, because you said that's the actual reason they gave for firing you, right? Was that
yes,
in your book?
Yes.
Was that Mr. T incident?
Yes, exactly.
I'll ask you about that a bit later because I don't want to jump into that just yet. I just wanted to touch on Portland. We've done interviews with Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas, and you worked with them in Portland. How did you like those matches?
I always liked working with Rocky and Tony Atlas. Tony didn't like me because of my interviews. I'd get, back then you could kind of talk about the black and white generation of slavery and all that. You could get it in there. Now you can't do it.
Yeah.
But it was a fact. Rocky went along with it, no problem. He said, man, that's great, David. And Tony come out and said, why are you talking about my father and my grandfather? I said, Tony, I don't even know your father and grandfather. I said, I'm just talking, trying to get us something made up for the match. And he said, well, I don't like it. Well, I don't care what you don't like if you want to know the truth about it, you know. But we never had no problem. Tony, I always had good matches with him. Rocky, great guy to work with, no problem. Dwayne, I met him in Hawaii. I went over to Rocky's house with his wife and Dwayne. Dwayne was 8 years old, I believe, and you know, stayed with him and treated me great, you know, feed him my beer and all that, the family and all that. You're great people, you know.
Now, both Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas told us in their interviews that they actually didn't get along very well behind the scenes. Did you detect any of that?
Oh, yeah. Tony, I think Tony had more of the black-white thing. He didn't like to sell for a white guy. He wanted to, you know, dominate everybody, and that wasn't going to be done, you know. And Rocky didn't care. Rocky'd sell all day long, you know, and I mean, he knew he was going to get his in the end, so there was no problem, you know. But yeah, you could tell they didn't, you know, Tony wanted him to be more like him, and Rocky said, hey man, I do my own thing, you do yours. You ain't right though. You know, this is a business and we need to work together on it. because I think Tony and Rocky both knew that I didn't care. I mean, they don't know how much I didn't care. If they didn't like it, hey, tough. You know, I mean, that's the way I was all through the wrestling business. I got a little more at the end where, you know, I didn't care. Guy didn't like it, tough. Start to like it. Learn to like it. It'd be a lot easier on you if you learn to like it, because I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. So you either do it easy or you do it hard. It don't make any difference, you know.
And speaking of that, you mentioned in your book also, without going into details, that you beat up Playboy Buddy Rose in a match in Portland.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, Buddy had an attitude that he was king of the mountain in Portland. He was a small guy, but he's a big guy, you know, and he could move and he could work. But when I went to Portland, I was bigger than everybody there, you know, and Elton Owen, he didn't like me overshadowing all the little guys. So that's when I didn't stay there about 3 or 4 months, and I was back to Pensacola, because Buddy Rose, he was the only one I could work with there, because the rest of the guys was looked like a midget territory.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what they wanted. And I don't know why they brought me in, because they knew how big I was. But Buddy, we got, you know, we had some good matches, and I had to get rough with him a couple of times, but it wasn't a long turn rough. It was just a little let him know that, hey, did you hear me? Did you understand? Oh, I got it. You know, that's guys get it after you let them know real quick that, hey, you're messing up. You know,
And what point did you have your matches with Bruiser Brody?
Bruiser Brody. I worked with Bruiser in California on a week tour out there. We was working up and down the coast.
Yeah.
And every time I worked with Bruiser, let me tell you, he's probably the toughest guy in the ring. As far as tough, this guy, he didn't care. He didn't care how hard you hit him, how rough you was on him, how far you wanted to go, how mean you wanted to be. He'd be right back with you. Nice guy. Do good money with him, because people could see that we were fighting. You know, it wasn't none of this gaga with roses and all. You know, I mean, we was fighting. And after it's over, you know, next night, do it again. Next night, do it again. You know, I was talking to his wife here last month up in Charlotte. You know, she was up there in Barbara, and she said, yeah. She said, you described him exactly better than anybody ever described him. He didn't care what you did to him, and he just wanted to do it back to you. So if you can dish it out, you got to be able to take it. If you can't take it, don't dish it out, because you're not going to hurt him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a shame that what happened to him. And
you spent a lot of time actually in Puerto Rico, and I guess you've probably seen how corrupt it can be down there. Does it surprise you that what happened, when they got away with all that?
I got where I wouldn't even talk to him about going to Puerto Rico. I didn't want to be involved with it, because I knew it was all corrupt. And I don't think Bruiser had an idea of what was happening when they called him to come in the shower. When he turned to go in the shower, the way I heard it, that's when they just cut him open, you know.
Yeah.
And those same two guys, I had a problem with them in Madison Square Gardens. They come back to the dressing room and told me I was being too rough on them, and they didn't like it and all this here, you know. I said, well, write home and tell your mama, man. I ain't got nothing to do with it. You can't take it, stay on the porch, get you a rocking chair. I don't want to hear it, you know.
Do you think it was something that the office was probably involved with, because he was the booker that actually committed the murder, and he still kept his job after?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he told him he was scared of Brody. Brody was gonna hurt him, and Brody had no intention of hurting him out of the dressing room. He's the one calling him back here, the way I understood.
They were both baby faces at the time, from what I understand too.
Yeah.
They weren't even
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, his defense was, the way I understand it was, that hey, it was self-defense. He was scared for his life.
Yeah.
How can you be scared for your life? You call the guy back, you know. But like you said, a lot of things didn't go. I was talking to Barbara about it, and it was horrible the way they treated her when she went down there to find out what's going on. Nobody could tell her anything, and she still didn't find out anything. I mean, they was the doctors and everything. It was all really a hush hush. Get her out of the country. Get her away from here. We don't want to talk to her. I think he served one day in jail.
I don't know.
I think it was one night she said he served in jail.
I know he wrestled on the card after he did the murder, which is pretty disgusting. But
wow. Yeah.
But on the subject of Barbara, I'm friends with her, and she told me to say hello to you.
Yeah,
and,
I told her I said hello back. I've been aiming to call her, and I just hadn't had a chance. I tell you, she seemed like a nice lady, man. We talked for hours, and I can't imagine what she went through with that,
Oh God, when I met her, the whole thing really disturbed me because to actually see how sweet a lady she is.
Yeah.
That was pretty terrible. And I guess you were part of the Bruiser Brody Memorial event in St. Louis that Herb Simmons put on. I guess.
Yes.
And he told me you did a good job there for them. So.
Yes, and Herb was let me tell you, super guy. Everything he told me he'd do, he did it. Not one regret working for him. Everything's right on, I'd go back tomorrow for him. If he called me and said, hey, I need you up here this weekend, I'd be there. I wouldn't question him, I'd go, because I know he's going to do what he said,
I'm guessing you don't get in the ring anymore, you just do autograph appearances.
I just do autograph. I got in the ring up there, just for, with Barbara, and she presented a trophy, and the guy, he made some comments about Bruiser, and Barbara slapped him, and he acted like he was going to get her, and I stepped in between them, and he said, well, are you going to hit me? And I told him, I said, let me tell you something, boy, listen to me, nobody, I'm not going to draw a dime for you, because I'm not going to be here no more. If I hit you, all it's going to do is kill your heat. If you just back up and be a coward and take a bump and get out of the ring, everybody hates a coward. And he went, never heard that before. Yeah, well, believe me, a coward is where you get heat. You don't get heat somebody hitting you and you taking a bump and leaving because they got satisfied, Yeah. But if you scoot out and, I mean, it's amazing these young guys. They're so talented. Herb's got some good guys up there that are going to do good in the business. I mean, I probably won't live to see it. I'll be too old and gone or whatever, but some of them guys are going to be top-notch wrestlers up there. And then a few of the others, it's going to take years to get there, but they're all hard workers. Yeah. But they just don't understand the, take it easy.
Now, who brought you into the AWA?
AWA, that was Hogan. Hogan called and talked to Vern for me, and Vern called me, and we made a deal, and I went up there, and Vern was great promoter, great booker, great, I mean, he knew how to get the heat, how to get the matches over, the angles and everything, and Hogan and myself was doing big money up there, everywhere, and that's when Vince started his little going around taking all the territories, and Hogan went with him, and then later on he brought me in, and we went right back into Vern Gagne's territories where we were main event every day, and all of a sudden we went main event. Now we went back in with Vince McMahon main event, and people were still wanting to see who's the king of the mountain,
Right.
And excuse me.
So your run in AWA, you consider it a success?
Yeah. Yeah. Vern, let me tell you, Vern was a top-notch guy, man. He, the day I quit, Vince called me and said, David, you need to quit today. Tell Vern that, So I walked in and told Vern TV, I said, Vern, I'm leaving. And he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Vince. He said, get out of this TV station. You're through. That's it. I said, well, I'll get out, but you're not a young man. You talk about throwing me out. And I said, you're not a young man no more, Vern. And that was the happiest day of my life when Vern didn't throw me out. Because he could have thrown me out and tied me up in a knot and probably thrown me out the door altogether, But I think he just decided not to. And I'm glad he did, because I would have been a hard man to handle.
Is it true you came in wearing construction gloves that day? Because
Do what now?
I heard a rumor that when you came in to tell Vern that you were wearing construction gloves, almost expecting.
No construction gloves.
Bullshit.
No. That was probably when Greg said, "My dad might not be able to throw you out, but I can." And I said, "Somebody needs to grab this guy before I hurt him bad, you know." And that's when Patera and him said, "Come on, Greg, you're overstepping your bounds now."
So what type of promises did Vince make to you when you jumped to WWE?
He promised me on paper $500,000 a year for the rest of my life. I didn't have to worry about it. As long as I wanted, I had the job. And then he made me sign the contract. See, what people don't understand is, when he told me to go out and blast Stossel and all that, I wasn't even on the contract with him. And then after that, he made me sign the contract, just like everybody else, if you call it a contract.
Yeah.
It's just a one-sided thing for him. And then he come back and said, "I violated the contract." How can you violate it if it wasn't signed before, you know?
Right.
But that goes back to who got the most money.
Was it in WWF where you fought Andre the Giant, or was that before?
Oh yeah, several times I fought Andre there, and
He let you beat him too, I understand,
yeah,
which was very rare.
yeah, they carried him out to the hospital, and Andre was a great guy though, man. He, you know, I loved working with him, and so easy, you know. And I mean, it was hard, but it was easy. And kind of like wrestling the bear, you know. The bear was, nobody wanted to wrestle a bear. I love the bear, man. That was the greatest thing in the world, wrestling the bear. Easy night, man.
Were you ever around Andre outside the ring?
No, he always had his own guys or whatever that drove him everywhere and everything. And you know, I didn't drink, and I didn't hang around with guys drinking and everything, because I didn't drink. I've never had a beer in my life. Don't know what it's all about. The parties they do after the matches you hear about, I always got another hotel room miles away. Very seldom I'd stay in the same hotel everybody stayed in, because I seen what's going on and I didn't want to be involved with it, you know. And so I stayed away from all that stuff, you know. And people used to tell me, "Why don't you come over to the hotel and stay with us? We're gonna have a good party." I'm not interested, man. I gotta go to sleep.
And I guess they put you with Piper for a bit, so and
Yep.
he was like, I guess, the exact opposite of you. He would have been quite the partier at that time.
Yeah, Piper was a partier. He loved to party, but we didn't travel together. We just meet at the matches. You know, he'd come with his people and I'd come by myself. And Hogan would ride with me, or Hogan ride me, I'd ride with him, whatever. We'd go by ourselves, you know. And I just didn't travel with people. I didn't hang out with people. And you know, it got a lot of heat from the guys. They didn't like that, you know, but I just didn't want to hang out with them. I didn't want to do the drugs they were doing. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to be with somebody driving, drinking. So, you know, I did my own thing.
What did you think of Piper as a person?
Well, Piper was a heck of a nice guy, man. He was, you know, he got a good break with Vince when Vince gave him that Piper's Pit. Piper, to me, wasn't the greatest worker. He was very loose. He would throw punches at guys and miss them 6 inches, and he'd expect the guy to go down. Well, I wouldn't go down. The guy swung at me and missed me. I didn't go down. Matter of fact, I'd come back and hit him twice as hard.
Yeah.
The next time, you know, I wouldn't do that. And Piper had a habit of being too easy on guys. He didn't want to hurt nobody and all this here, you know. And hey, if they're out there and they're doing that kind of work, they deserve to be hurt. That's the way it's a business. You take care of the business. If you can't do the business, stay home.
Exactly. Now, Brett talks in your book, in the foreword that he wrote for you, that you stood up for him in a WWF dressing room one night against somebody that was trying to bully him, and then you stayed on that guy for weeks after.
Yeah.
Who was that guy?
I don't remember his name, but he was really really dogging Brett, man. Brett come in, he'd talk about the Stampede wrestling and all the things they did, all this year, and somehow I told him, I said, you don't even know this kid, man. This kid probably tie you in knots. He's trying to learn to work. He's coming out here. He's trying to be nice about it. And he said, well, he should learn how to work before he comes here. I said, hey, if you want to get somebody, get me.
Yeah.
Here I am. Well, you need to shut up then. One or the other. Shut up or put up. He just sat down. Next night he come in the dressing room. He just, you got anything to say tonight, big boy? I don't know exactly what I said to him, but I stayed on him for a while, and he left Brett alone. And I was telling him the truth. Brett could have stretched him. Brett's done been through all that dungeon stuff, night after night after night, and these guys, he just didn't know the absolute fine points of working, And I told this guy, man, you don't know who you're messing with.
Now, I'm going to ask you about the John Stossel incident. For anyone that wants to know the full account of it in huge detail, they can buy your book, which is right on your shirt.
There you go.
Don't Call Me Fake by Dr. D. David Schultz, and it's available on Amazon.com. But do you want to go over in fairly good detail exactly what happened that night?
Well, it was Madison Square Gardens, a big show, and as
you were wrestling Inoki, right?
Yes, yeah. Tony Inoki, and as I got there, Vince come in the dressing room, and probably 30 minutes after I got there, I was getting dressed and everything, and he come in and said, David, we got a guy making a joke out of the business out here. I want you to go out, interview him, and blast him. Tear his ass up. Stay in character. Dr. D. Okay. So he said, let's get it done. We'll call you. Just get ready. So he went out, and all the guys, they heard him. They heard everything, but of course not one person spoke up. And I understand why. They lose their job. But they called me. I went outside, and one guy's trying to talk to me, and I told him, he just said, oh man, I can't handle this guy. And John Stossel come up, he said, yeah, you're right, I can't handle him either. I said, well, what is it you want? What do you, and then he started asking me questions, which tells in the book what questions, and then he says, I think you're fake. At that time, that's what I would have swore he said. But he said, I think it's fake. Well, that's not a question. That's a statement. And I said, you think it's fake? How about this? Slapped him on his jaw, didn't hit his ear. Everybody says I hit him in the ear. No, it wasn't the ear. His feet come out from under him, he hit the ground, and he come back up. And when he come up, I was always taught, if you knock a guy down and he gets up, you need to knock him back down pretty quick. Because if he gets up, he could have wanted to attack me. I don't think he did, but he could have,
He claimed he was an amateur wrestler or something.
Yeah, so exactly. Well, he was in the ring with some professional wrestlers and all that, an amateur and all this. And then I slapped him with the left hand, same thing, on the jaw. He went down again, took off running.
And that was a short version. You have on a VHS somewhere the full interview, which was actually much longer.
Yes.
And he aggravated you before that.
Yes, several times, several interviews, tried to do them, and he couldn't do them. He just kept backing off. And then finally he said, well, I'll just ask you the standard question. Well, And I've kept that tape because everything else went on the cutting room floor, And
I guess you got that through the lawsuit or something? Is that
it was all given to me by mistake, I think, from the lawsuit.
Okay.
And I kept it, and I have all that. I have all the depositions of him and Vince McMahon and Geraldo Rivera and different ones, and all these things,
And what people don't know, I guess, is he actually interviewed people after that. Like, he interviewed the Iron Sheik and continued his job after, I guess, he was examined by the Madison Square Garden physician.
Yep, and the doctor said ain't nothing wrong with him. Can't find nothing wrong with his ears at all. So Vince moved me up real quick. Inoki and me went to the ring. We did our match, and then come out. Vince said, go to the hotel, get out of here, because they're talking about getting the police over here to you or whatever. Don't worry about it. Come by the office tomorrow. And as I went by the office, Vince said, "You did a great job. Exactly what I wanted. All this here. Proud of you." You know?
No criminal charges.
No. I never got charged one time. I got suspended from the New York Athletic Commission, which was lifted a week later, and I was fined $3,000. And Vince paid that, he said. Baltimore, Maryland suspended me for 3 days, and they lifted that after they seen the tape. California suspended me. They lifted it after they seen the tape. The thing that people didn't know was New York suspended me, and I didn't even have a New York license, and they suspended me. I mean, how can you suspend? I didn't have a license in New York.
Right, because I guess they just didn't harass WWE over
That's
that.
right. Just go in and wrestle. They take care of everything, you know. And and then Vince told me, said, don't worry about it here. Go to Japan, and I'll book you there and Egypt and different places for a while. Let this thing blow over. And of course, that's when I went to Japan, and they had a reporter over there that Inoki wanted me to hit to ride off of this one, and I made him sign a paper saying it was all planned.
Right, and that reporter knew about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now this reporter is coming up. They contacted me and said this reporter said no, it wasn't planned, and that I really got onto him. I really hit him. So they called me and I said, "Do you guys really want to open up this bucket of worms? Because it's a big bucket of worms you're going to open up, because I got a paper what it was planned." And Antonio Inoki was on it too, and he's a senator now, I believe, or congressman or whatever. Yeah. And he's not going
to a senator.
Yeah, and he's not going to like it. People, it's a dishonor to lie in Japan. But this guy come out every week for 5 weeks, every day, and I'm on the front of Tokyo News, and his head's wrapped up.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I made contact when I hit him. Of course, I made contact, but when
Yeah.
But now he's saying no, it was real, because he wanted 15 minutes of glory now. And they called me. It was called Antidote, some kind of show coming up now that they wanted to do an interview with me about it. And I said, I don't think you guys know what you're talking about now. Y'all, you're talking about starting something here that is going to explode real big on you. But if you want it, I'll do it for you. And they never got back with me after that.
So at what point did Vince try and get you, I guess he did ask you to write a letter of apology, and he also wanted you to sign something saying that you were acting on your own will with the slap and it had nothing to do with them.
I went and signed that, and I did sign a letter of apology, because Linda McMahon asked me, every time something happened at the arena, Linda would say, "David, here, this guy said you broke his camera. You hit him, broke his camera. Don't worry about it. We took care of it. We gave him a season pass, and just sign this here that you didn't mean to break his camera or whatever. We took care of it." Several things she did like that. And this was another one she did. Just sign an apology to him. We'll get it to him. We'll pay the fine. They get $3,000, $6,000, whatever it was. Vince said he's going to pay it and all this. Here, just sign it up. So during the depositions, all this come up. Linda McMahon said that I was uncontrollable. I caused a lot of problem out in the ring, in the crowds. I was always beating up people, and I was tearing equipment up, and I was always getting sued by people or, complaints about it. And, just because she comes in and says, "Just sign this paper real nice, sign this here, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it, it's okay." And then, he did an apology, but he beat this guy up real bad, hurt him, all this, Anyway. You learn and live. You live and learn, whatever.
What was Hogan's reaction to all that? Because I guess you were still friends at that point.
Yes, we were until that happened, and he said that I should have known better than to go out and, to hit a reporter. And
after he choked out a reporter, wasn't it around the same time that he front face locked a reporter?
Yeah, exactly.
And dropped him?
Exactly. Exactly. Belzer, you got him in a front face lock and
just choked
him and dropped him. He busted his head open, and he wanted to better me.
Yeah.
You know.
Because that was actually a much more serious injury that he gave that guy.
Sure. And he wanted to better me, you know, and I guess Belzer got a lot of money out of him, or out of Vince. Vince paid it for him, you know.
Because that would have been like a couple weeks after, wouldn't it?
Just a couple weeks
because,
after.
Mr. T was also on that.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah. A lot of action going on back then. Yeah.
So for him to say that you should have known better. And you have called Hulk Hogan a liar and a coward. Why do you think he's a coward?
He's a coward. He just, I mean, I don't think he'd fight. I've never seen him in a street fight, and we hung out together all the time. We rode together and everything. And he just, you know, maybe he just didn't want to. I don't think he wanted to be confronted by nobody. And I think when I got rough with him in the ring, he told Vince that I was going to beat him on national TV for the belt. And I said, why would you tell Vince that? Well, you're out here, you're hooking me on different things. You're saying this in the ring, you're saying, I got you. And then I let him go, you know. I mean, you don't want to mess the match up. He knew I had him. I didn't have to tell him. And he was weak-minded. Hogan was very weak-minded about things. You could really, you know, tell him the sky is falling. He started looking up and ducking, you know what I mean? He just, you know. And Vince Sr. is the one with Stallone, that was his break. And then Junior jumped in there and told him, hey, you stay by. They wouldn't even let Hogan dress with the guys. They had him his own private dressing room, and, you know. And I said, what? He's making him just altogether stay away from us. Just like they do in any other sport. Football, baseball, they keep the quarterbacks away from everybody, pitchers away from everybody. That makes you wonder, are they controlling the game? I mean, you know, basketball really, you know, you can bet on basketball, go out here. I always said that all professional sports are fixed. I've always said that. I can't prove it, but how can you bet on a basketball game and they give you 3 points and you lose by 5? A basketball game. I mean, where points are scored.
Yeah.
And baseball, you know, I mean, the pitcher's the one controls who hits home runs. I mean, to me, I think it would be. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me talking old age and old wise guy that, you know, understand all this, you know. And boxing, I mean, I think a lot of the boxing was real. I don't know if Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali was real. I don't even think they seen that punch. But then you had to know Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali, how fast he was. You wouldn't see it. But
there's always that Sonny Liston fight.
Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston and Ali. Yeah.
Now, so you kept your job after that. You weren't fired over that, but I guess the lawsuit still hadn't gone to court.
Yes.
And in between that time, there was some type of heat with you and Mr. T.
Yeah, they said it was, and me and Mr. T was having a good time with it. You know, it's like Mr. T's in the crowd, I'm in the ring, we're arguing, all this. And then Jay Strongbow, they already brought a guy there to take my place that night, because he told me, he said, Caesar said if you go to the ring and mess with Mr. T, you're through. And I said, well, I mean, Mr. T's out there. If he says something, I got to say something to him.
Right.
And so he said, no, you're through. He said, matter of fact, you're through. That's it. So I walked out the ringside to say something to Mr. T. And Tori Tanaka, a good friend of mine, and that's when the cops come out. Jay Strongbow told him I was a fairly dangerous guy. Very dangerous. So they told me to get on the ground. I did. They hog-tied me. Feet shackled together to my hands in the back. 4 of them picked me up and 2 of them held guns to my head. I mean, until I got to the back door.
And you were unarmed.
Yeah, I was unarmed, yeah. And I just said, well, I ain't nothing I can do at this point. Well, you know, and one of the English wrestlers come out and said, hey, why you guys got guns to his head? He's tied, he can't move. You need to put them guns up. They took the shackles off and cuffs and throwed me out the back door, or led me to the back door and threw my bag out the back door. Said, Lee, don't you come back in here. So I went to the airport and came home, and went to see Vince the next day or two, and that's when he said he could take care of all this here, but I need to sign the paper saying that that Stossel thing was all my fault, that I did it. He'd had nothing to do with it. I said, no, I'm not going to sign that. I'm not going to do anything like that, Vince. You told me to do that. And if people will watch the tape and see Fuji and the Iron Sheik standing there like this in the doorway, all through the tape, and they never move.
Right.
And if they had no idea what was going to happen, they would say, "Oh, hey, hold it, wait a minute, what's going on?"
Yeah.
They would have moved or something like that. When Stossel run by them, they
didn't even flinch.
Never flinched. So, and like I said, all the guys knew it in the dressing room, but nobody speak up because they
thought they'd get in trouble if they.
Oh yeah, they would have got fired. Yeah, Vince would have got rid of them.
Interesting. So for Mr. T, you don't hold anything against him?
No. He
there was no elaborate plan that people, I guess this is the rumor that maybe WWE people tried to circulate, that you were trying to start something with Mr. T to force that match to have to happen.
Oh no. Me and Mr. T, we was talking. Tori Tanaka was a good friend of mine, and him and Mr. T was always there in LA, and like I said, Mr. T and me took pictures in the hallway. It's in the book. That night before the match, before it went out, and no, Mr. T was just, excuse me, he was getting a payday for Vince, and that was about it,
When did you have your NWA World Title match with Ric Flair? Was that before or after?
That was after. That was in. I think it was in New York, Long Island, one of the raceways, and also I wrestled him in, let me see, I believe it was Rhode Island. 2 times I worked with him for the belt. I believe that was it. And rest of the time, Bockwinkel was in Calgary once or twice, and then I had Bockwinkel somewhere else, and I forget, because a lot of matches went between here and there. Yeah.
I didn't have as long a career as you, and I can't even remember mine.
Yeah.
So for Ric Flair, how did you find him in the ring and outside the ring?
He was great. Rick is he has great ring psychology, and that's what it takes to really get in there and be able to work with anybody, anytime. I mean, he can go in the ring with you and make you look like $1 million, or he can make you look like nothing. You're as good as the guy you're working with. And if he tried to make me look like nothing, he would end up looking like nothing, because, it's give and take. But a lot of guys go out there and they're scared to death because Ric Flair, And Ric Flair, just like you and me, he's just out there to do a job, man. And do it easy as he can, get the crowd over, get the job done, make the people happy, and go home,
And there's a pretty funny story in your book. I guess a few nights before one of your matches against Ric Flair, somebody entered the dressing room that was supposed to wrestle you that night.
Oh, yeah. That was out in Rhode Island also. He come through the dressing room, and the poor kid come up, and Rick was there, and let me see, I believe Dory Funk was there, and several other. We was all back there talking, and this guy come in and says, "I need to see Dr. D." And the referee said, "Doc, this guy wants to see you, man." And I said, "Yeah, who is he?" He said, "He's working with you tonight." "Oh, really? Okay, tell him to come back here." So I stepped back about 4 or 5 feet from everybody, and he said, "Doc, I just want to tell you my family's here. I'd like to have at least 50% of the match, and because I want to look good in front of my family, and then I'll do what I got to do." I said, who are you?" And he said, "Well, that's what I want. Here's what you want." And I hit him, and his head hit the locker, and he come back, and I back slapped him like Matt Dillon does, the back head on his face. And Ric Flair said, "Oh shit, he got one now." And every time I'd hit him, he'd hit the locker, and he'd take 2 feet back, and I'd run and hit him again. Now it doesn't come to fist, hitting him every time. He was bleeding all over, and I beat him all the way into the next dressing room. and took his bag, throwed him out of the dressing room, throwed him out. Never seen him again. Never heard of him again.
So I guess you had a substitute match.
Yeah, he didn't want to come back to the ring no more. And of course Vince told me a lot of times, he would tell me to go out and hurt guys that was running their mouth, and he'd say, David, put this guy out for a while. Well, how long? Oh, 3 months, or permanently. I mean, what do you want to do? He just put him out. I don't want him in the business. He don't need to be in the business. He's out here talking to kids in the neighborhood. He's taking razor blades and cutting himself and telling them it's all fake because he's not good enough to be a wrestler, and he want them to look up to him, young kids. I said, okay. And I'd go out, and as soon as we hook up, I'd headbutt him, both his eyes closed up, and then I'd take him down, separate his shoulder, and fall on his knee, dislocate his knee. I mean, it wasn't funny, but it's part of the business. Yeah. This guy didn't need to be in the business.
And that was common. It still hey, actually.
It happens all the time, and people don't realize because hey, it don't take.
Wrestling.
That's right. It don't take, but hey, it takes from here to here.
Yeah.
The way this is okay. That is not. That won't give. And break in a minute, just like the knee. One to give, one won't.
Yeah.
And you know that. I just, trying to let these people know that.
Of course. Now, I'm very familiar with international wrestling because I'm from that area of Canada. Okay. You were world champion for the Montreal promotion there.
Yes.
At one point, it was huge, but it started to go down a bit once WWE took over.
That's right.
Who was the promoter exactly that you had issues with? Because I'm going to guess Dino Bravo probably wasn't running it by that
No, he wasn't. I don't remember the promoter because I wasn't
Gino
there.
Brito, maybe?
Who?
Gino Brito.
Brito. Yeah, Dino Brito, yeah. I didn't have no problem with him. He just didn't... He didn't want me in there, I don't think. They put the belt on me, and then they wanted to take it off as soon as they put it on. I said, well, if you take it off, I gotta go. That's cold territory.
Yeah.
You better have some warm clothes up there. And they talk a lot of French.
Of course.
I mean, and you think they're talking about you, and they're not. They just understand it better than they do English, and they don't mean nothing by it. But at that time, I'm thinking, oh, here we go. They're talking about me. But they wasn't. I mean, you go to a restaurant, people, they act like they can't speak English, but when they bring you a bill, they say, oh, $19.95, just clear. But they just, some part of it, Quebec, they didn't want you to know that they could speak English.
There's always a thing with French people and English people. They always kind of hold something against us.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind because I got along good with all of them, and they couldn't. I mean, just I thought Dino Bravo, they would be talking about me,
Yeah.
And they talked loud enough you could hear them.
But that territory at one point did have some mafia connections. It probably didn't by the time you were around. But
yeah, I'm glad they didn't because I'm glad the mafia slowed down a lot. Cause, I mean, I know a lot of the
Dino Bravo ended up murdered.
Yeah. I know in the bounty hunting, I got every time I'd get a suspicious picture, I'd call this certain guy, and he'd get a hold of the mob in New York and say, hey, go with our blessings, you got no problem. Or they say, hey, throw the picture away, burn it, don't ever mention this guy's name again. I said, okay, it's done. And they'd ask me, what happened to the guy this here? What guy? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know nothing about it. A couple of weeks later, they find him in the river down there floating somewhere, But they took care of their own. Very honorable men. Hey, you lie to them, you pay. You're dishonest to them, you pay. I mean, that's the way I think the world should be. You lie to somebody, you're just like Japan. Man, they put a lot of power in honesty. That's when the murder rate's so high,
Yeah.
They drag these guys on top of the building, push them off. Oh, so sorry.
Now, the Iron Sheik, you spent some time around him.
Yep.
In recent years, a lot of crazy videos have come out about him. Was he always that out of it, or is that a show?
No, I had a good time with him, man. We used to ride together some, and he was just the Iron Sheik. He wanted to put on more of a show than he was capable of doing. I mean, he wanted to really, make people believe that he was the Iron Sheik. I mean, and a lot of guys in wrestling gets that way. They take the gimmick too far. They want people to really believe, follow him home. He's sleeping in a tent outside in Georgia.
Yeah.
And, Camel's outside his tent. Yeah, that's what he's Sheik, and his harem's out there with him and all that. But, I mean, you can carry it too far, Nice guy, though. Nice guy.
And Sergeant Slaughter, you had a little bit of matches with him. How was he?
Bob was easy to work with. I've never had a problem with Bob. I started having a problem with him when he, threw everything out and sucked up the Vince and went in with him. Instead of, he had a lawsuit against him and he canceled it and Vince paid him. Over
the G.I. Joe thing?
Yeah. And gave him a good job and, I guess he did a smart move, but Bob, I never had no more dealings with him after that. I used to work with him a lot, but easy guy to work with,
Most people know this now, but after your professional wrestling career ended, you ended up becoming a bounty hunter. Do you want to tell us how you made that transition?
Well, I was up in Connecticut, and Vince had put out the word that anybody used me, that he would not help them any, he would not give them no people, he would not supply them anyway, he'd disown if they used me. So I figured, I'm going to have to do something here. So I worked overseas a lot and everything, and a guy that I knew come to me and said, David, you want to be a bounty hunter? Man, they're begging for people to be a bounty hunter. They got so many people here that's wanted by the bonding companies and the law, rearrest warrants, and I knew nothing about it. But he said, if you want, I'll introduce you to some of the bondsmen. So he introduced me to one, and they had a motorcycle guy that was supposed to be real bad, and nobody wanted to go get him, and I was going to make good money on him. I think I was going to make $4,000 or $5,000 on him, and nobody wanted to go get him, so he was so bad, I found him in 2 days and I had no problem at all with him. I stuck a .357 in his mouth when he turned the corner and just give up. And I said, don't spit on my gun either. Yeah, he was, but I mean, and then from that point on, I had people from all over the United States calling me, especially the next 3 or 4 years. They was calling me from California, Texas, Washington State, different, and they think you can work badging, but people, you never get one that's skipped. Like a person don't come to court today, they never hand you the paper and say, go get this guy today. They go and try to get this guy to turn himself in, or go to the family, tell them they're going to sue him, take the house and the whole bit. It scares everybody to death. Now they got it really running.
Yeah.
That's when they come to you 4 months later. Say, hey, I ain't got for 2 months, I need to get him in. And you have to start all over. And you have to get on the family side and do all the work again, because they done went out there and scared them to death, told them they was going to sue them, they was going to take their house, take their car, take everything they got if they don't tell you where this guy is. Most of the time they didn't know where the guy was, and if they did know where he was, they would tell you. Most time the guy wouldn't tell them, but I had no problem. I mean, I always got in, and I don't think I ever missed anybody that I was after. A lot of times people would get picked up while I was looking for them in Florida, and they'd catch them in Texas. So, I mean, I can't help that. But the bondsman would pay me my expenses for what I've put out on him.
Yeah. Because
he was caught in Texas, and I was in Florida looking for him.
Right.
But that didn't happen a whole lot.
And for the people that don't understand it, basically, these are people that are supposed to appear in court. They haven't necessarily been found guilty of their crime.
Yes.
But they're guilty of missing their court appearance, and that's where the person that's put money to give them bail.
That's right.
They're losing their money, so they're paying you a portion of the money they're going to get back for them to appear in order for you to capture them.
Yes, and most of the time they're backed by insurance companies, big insurance companies, backs the bondsman, and the insurance company says, hey, we'll pay the bond, we'll pay the $300,000 if he don't come back, but the bondsman got to pay him. So he's on the line for the money, you just don't have to put it out, it's all paper trace, just, if you don't get them in, I mean, I've seen them have other bounty hunters looking for people. They had to pay some big bonds, and thank goodness mine, I saved them a lot of money. They made me a lot of money. So,
did you ever have to retrieve any celebrities or minor celebrities?
Well, mayor, I guess that's a celebrity. A mayor of West Haven, Connecticut, took off, and I went and got him, and he thought he was above the law. He said, you can't do this. And the cops were standing there watching as I drug him across his desk and cleaned his desk off with him and handcuffed him and drug him out to the car. And the cops said, I guess he did it. But yeah, I mean, most of them, that was a lot of, the rough ones you get are the one that's, the sexual, that raped 3-year-old girl.
Yeah, I read the one that molested the handicapped girl.
Yeah, the
really
paraplegic.
Yeah.
And didn't even have a warrant on him. A mother come to me and begged me to go get him and get him back here. And I went up in Pennsylvania and talked to the sheriff and told the sheriff what he did. Of course, he checked the records and all, and they found out, yeah, he'd never been to court. He just took off after he got, he was in jail, and they released him, and he didn't have a bond or anything, so I didn't have no authority to go get him. But I went up and talked to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, if you don't go back with him, we're going to put you in jail here, and I don't know when you'll get back. It's Pennsylvania, one of them little mining towns where the sheriff runs it.
Right.
So the guy said, no, I'll go back with him. Okay. He said, go back with him. The only time I'm going down the road and want to kick the guy out of the car while you're moving. This girl was a paraplegic, and he sexually molested her. They called him, walked in on him. And I mean, I didn't even want him in my car, but
I don't know how you didn't just shoot him.
I know, yeah, really. Stand him up and run over him,
Now, you also, I've heard you tell the story on Steve Austin's podcast, but this was a pretty cool one where you caught the guy that had a ridiculous amount of drugs in his hotel room, and you ended up ignoring that the drugs were there, I guess, and took the guy in, and you kind of helped him out a little bit. So
yeah, well, the bondsman was out of Virginia, and he told me, he said, I called him up and said, listen, this guy got a lot of drugs here, man, and if I tell the law down here these drugs are here, they're going to come over here and bust him. They're going to keep him. You're not going to get him back, because there's enough drugs here to send him to jail for a long time. And he said, well, just get the truck and $10,000, and that'll pay the bond off, and I'll take care of you out of that if you get that done. So this kid called his wife and called his boys and told them bring $10,000, and he gave us the truck, title, signed, sealed, delivered. We left, and I always say, I don't know what it was. It looked like marijuana. I don't have a test kit, and I'm not certified to see, but if the local Texas Rangers got him or whatever, we never get him with that, So the bondsman said, just get the truck, get the title, get $10,000, leave him alone. Once you pay the bondsman, we have no right to pick this guy up no more. Our rights are gone. It's done. The bond's paid. The bondsman can't go back next week and pick him up again and say, no, you didn't pay. It's over. You can't do it. So we're coming home, and Dave Hodgman was with me. He's driving the car. He said, Doc, we need to pull over down here somewhere and vacuum this thing out. It's got enough marijuana in here for all over the thing. I said, hey, let's just get it to Virginia, let him handle it. You go down to the car wash, they see you doing that.
Yeah, you're going to be liable.
I said, let's get out of Texas first. You know, this Texas chain gang rough.
Yeah. Wow.
Decisions you have to make at that time, you know, and the bondsman don't care. He just wants his money. He don't care about this guy. He don't care nothing about him. Pay his money, he's happy, he's gone, this guy. And, you know.
Was there ever any situations where you thought you might actually lose your life picking somebody up?
Yeah, I thought they would be a attempt down in New York a couple of times picking up big drug dealers. You know, they'd have dreads down to their back waist. They'd have 4 or 5 guys in there, and all of them got guns. And I know most of them, or most of the time I know them from being down there so much. And, you know, I told my guy, I called him in and said, here, take my gun, hold my gun, Dave, because I didn't want him to get a hold of it. Yeah. He said, you're not taking me nowhere, man. And I thought these guys was going to start shooting. And I went over, grabbed him, suplexed him over the couch, and when we hit the ground, I rolled him over, cuffed him, wrapped my hands around his hair, and drug him downstairs. Got downstairs, I told him, I said, see, you wanted to be a bad boy. See what you lost? You lost your friends, you lost your girl, you lost your drugs, all because you wanted to be a bad boy. And now you ain't nothing but a punk. Just a street punk, all you are. If you get out tomorrow and come back, you're not going to have no drugs, your boy's not going to look up for you, because they just seen me whoop your ass right there in front of everybody, real quick. I know, Doc, man, I'm so sorry, I should have just come with you. It would have been the thing to do, and you would have saved all face everywhere, you know. But, you know, people don't understand. They want to, you know, like police, you know, we always, I mean, I can't understand why people are down on the police departments and stuff, and these cops. I know they're all not angels, but let me tell you, if these people would do what the police ask them to do, it's over. They won't have all this problem. Because if the police tells you to get down on your knees, your hands over your head, that's all you gotta do. Lay down on the ground, shut up, and that's it. You ain't gotta spit at them, cuss them, fight them, so you're not gonna win. And I mean, that's the whole problem. Nobody wants to obey the police. They think they don't have the authority, and they do.
No, a funny story about that. I actually got into a bar fight once, and it was completely my fault. Yeah. But when the police came, I was polite.
Yeah.
And the other guy started yelling at the police, and they arrested him. And I just left, and that just goes to show you, just be polite to the police officers. Oh, yeah. And they'll let you go.
I mean, they got a hard job, man. I know what they go through, and you never know, man. And it don't take but 1 second, boom, you know, you're dead out there. And when a person don't want to do what you say, first thing you gotta wonder, hey, has he got a gun? Has he got a knife? Is he trying to suck me in close? You want to sue me? You want to fight me or what? I mean.
Now, what would be your best, in general, self-defense advice? You've been in so many situations where you've had to defend yourself against some pretty rough characters. What's just some general advice you would give? To an average person, or somebody having a fight on the street, somebody wanting to... Somebody having a fight on the street, getting attacked. Well,
if they're getting attacked, the first thing you need to do is try to get something to protect yourself with. If you don't have a gun, if you don't have a knife, you know, always remember, most people are very vulnerable in the throat, the eyes. You know, it don't take much to get a guy like the old Three Stooges thing, you know, or be pretty fast on your feet, and don't get in that problem anyway. Be very aware of your surroundings at all time. Know what people are doing. You know, if I walk out to my car today, I walk out that front door, I stop, and I look and see what's in that parking lot before I go to my car, my truck, whatever. Always. And people will walk out, and you can go out there and set the day. Set them cameras up. I bet you won't see 5 people stop and look before they go to the parking lot. And that's what happens. People are sitting around watching these people. They know what they do. They know everything about them, and they'll follow them home, and they don't know anybody's following them, and they're not aware of their surroundings. But I think everybody ought to be armed. I think, New York, and I never got a license in New York. I've had license in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Florida, all through, but New York never would give me a license for the 5 boroughs. I could have got one for New York up in Utica, but that's no good to me. You can't bring them into the boroughs. Weapon permit is no good in the boroughs if you got a permit in New York. Only state I know I can't. Can't come in here with it. But yet all the cooks has got them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. And I don't know the answer to it. I'd say, baton, a lot of people don't know you can carry batons and you can carry shotguns and different things in different states. I even think you can carry a shotgun in the 5 boroughs. If it's broke down or whatever, at least you got it, Or a baton, or go to a class, a baton class. You have to be trained on it before you can carry it, Women, they can carry a slapstick in their purse, one that you just slap over 3. I always like a little knife. I never am. I always told my wife, I said, always carry that little knife. That right there ain't many men will come get you. If you got that little knife, it's completely legal in any state. You back up in that corner and tell somebody, come get it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they're gonna back off as soon as you slice them. It's like a razor blade, And I always carry one. It's a little bigger than I usually carry, but I was doing some work the other day and I forgot to change it back, But at least you've got something, You're not just there with nothing. A Coca-Cola bottle or something,
Yeah.
Or run like hell, or don't get in that situation in the first place. Don't go to there.
But sometimes you can't avoid
I know.
it. Sometimes
it happens this quick, man. They will block you in, one in front of you, slam on the brakes, and make you hit them or touch them, just bump them, or they'll back up into you, and one behind you. They got you in the car before it's over, because you're getting out of the car wanting to see what happened.
Yeah.
Now they got your car, you, and everything, The people don't think, man. It happens so quick that I don't know, people just don't think, or it just happens so quick it overwhelms them and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Doing nothing is the worst thing you can do. Doing nothing. A woman screaming and hollering or whatever is the best thing she can do, or kick, punch, gouge, or whatever, And a man's a little different situation. You start punching and gouging, somebody may just knock you out. It's a hard world out there, man. It's a bad world. Most of these people get in their car, they go to work, they drive home.
Yeah.
That's it. Every day. And the weekend they get in the car and they go cruising. And they have no idea what's going on. Just at work and back. And that's the same everywhere. They're all the same.
Now you cover in your book how dangerous Puerto Rico is, and
yes.
Some parts of Connecticut.
Yes.
I think you said New Haven.
Yes.
But out of the United States, you've been all over the United States, both for bounty hunting and wrestling. What are some of the most dangerous areas?
Well, the most dangerous would probably be in LA, where the Crips and the Bloods and different gangs congregate. They're not going to bother you if you don't get in the middle of them. They're not going to come out here. They're not interested in you unless you get on their turf. You're there. They want to know why you're there. You shouldn't be there. Miami's pretty bad. Reason being, you got a lot of illegals down there. A lot of illegal people coming in from different, a lot of drugs flowing in and out, and when you got drugs you got problems. Chicago's horrible. That's a horrible place. Very rough up there. St. Louis, rough place. I guess Chicago would probably be the roughest one. far as the murder rate and everything, I mean, everybody's got guns up there. Nobody's supposed to have one.
Right.
Everybody's got one. You go in. Hey, ain't nobody supposed to have no guns here now. Y'all come on in if you got any guns. Hey, we all got guns. I mean, they won't go out of the house without them. And the police know that. But what can they do? I mean, you can't get every gun up there because they just go get another one as soon as you take one away. But I thought you're supposed to go to jail for years for having a gun, but I guess not. But they are rough areas now. Let me tell you, there's some very bad areas. And when you get over in other countries now, San Domingo, Puerto Rico, Jamaica.
I've been to Santo Domingo, and it is extremely dangerous.
Oh yeah, it's bad over there. You can disappear. Egypt, they never find you out there in the sand dunes, you know. And you never know they're going to do it to you. They just take you out there and dump you off. You're through. They ain't got to kill you. You're going to die anyway. You know.
You want to go off the resorts if you go to the Dominican.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, we take you today for camel ride. Oh, I don't think so.
I was a big fan of the Morton Downy Jr. show, and anyone can search it on YouTube. You have 2 very funny appearances on there, like very entertaining, but also funny considering how much times have changed with some of the comments on there. But do you want to just tell us about both appearances? The first one was related to the 2020 incident, and the second one was regarding bounty hunting.
Yeah. We was one of them was wrestling. The bounty hunting was. They run them together, really. They start one, go the other. Morton loved to get excitement going, you know. And they had Thunderbolt Patterson there talking about he never had an opportunity. The white man never gave him an opportunity. I said, boy, you had every opportunity in the world. Your problem was you couldn't wrestle yourself out of a wet paper bag. You was given every opportunity. Everybody bent over back for you, and you couldn't handle him. He said, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, I know exactly what I'm talking about. You got the black man syndrome. You think everything should be given to you and you shouldn't have to work for it. And then a guy up on the stage said something. He talking about, I forget who he was. But I walked over there and threw water in his face, and he wouldn't even stand up and fight or anything else.
Some guy that had wrestled for Jim Barnett or something that was alleging Jim Barnett.
Yes, exactly.
Jim Wilson.
Yeah. And he told me he had a $500,000 home in Atlanta, Georgia. I said, you ain't never seen $500,000, Wilson. I never heard of you, never seen you in a wrestling ring, and you're talking, you come out here and say that. Why don't you back these words up? He just sat there with water running off his face, you know. And then we had the other one about bounty hunting. They had this big guy said, ain't nobody ever going to take him to jail. He said, nobody's ever took me to jail. He said, Doc, I know the policemen, they knew I was wanted, and they wouldn't come take me to jail. They were scared of me. I said, well, let me tell you, big boy, I'm not scared of you. You come up in Connecticut and go and jaywalk and put a bond up and then skip the bond, I'll show you how quick I come get you. He said, I don't doubt you come and get me. I said, you better not doubt it because I will come get you. He said, Doc, you misunderstand me. No, I'm not misunderstanding. You got everybody believing you're bad. You're not bad, man. You know, only bad people are dead or in the joint. That's the bottom line, you know. Anyway, and then the one about Stossel, that was just about a wrestling. I had all that tied in together, I believe. Because Mort, after that, he didn't. I don't think he did a special thing on Stossel at that time. I think he'd already got pretty sick by then. He was going downhill with cancer, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, he had lung cancer or something.
But a nice guy, man. This guy I tell you, I love to go on his show because he'd always tell me, Doc, get in there. Come on, get these guys. He liked people that would stand up for themselves too. He didn't like people who wimp out, you know.
Yeah. What I liked about that one is like everyone's defending pro wrestling being real, including the talk show hosts.
Yeah, exactly.
Where, like, in this day and age, you would never see that, but that was great.
Yeah, I need more of that today too, I think.
Yeah, it might be too late for the pro wrestling industry,
I think so.
Unfortunately, because now, I guess MMA, they're almost becoming better entertainers than the pro wrestlers too, if you look at their promos.
Yes.
So, what do you think of pro wrestling today and mixed martial arts?
Somebody asked me that question here on the podcast, and they said, do you think a MMA guy would beat a top pro wrestler guy? I said, sure he would. He'd beat him 10-1. Well, how can you say that? Because you asked me. I said, yeah. I said, first, the MMA is in 10 times better shape than the wrestler because he trains all the time. The pro wrestler don't train. They make the shows. They entertain people. They go out and they entertain. These guys fight, man. They get out and work hard. They sweat. And, I mean, this is every day they do this. Sure, they're going to beat a regular wrestler. I mean, you may get one every once in a while to look up and beat one, but I don't think so. And he got mad at me, the guy, whoever it was. I can't believe you've been a pro wrestler. Hey, you asked me.
Breed now, too.
Yeah, exactly. You asked me, I'm telling you, the MMA guy would beat a wrestler hands down. So if it ever comes up, bet on the MMA guy.
Do you find it entertaining at all? I'm going to guess you don't watch it.
I don't watch it. I don't watch it. And when I do, if I happen to slip through it, some of the new things that are coming on TV, I just can't watch it. I just can't. I mean, you know, it's just no storyline. The guy go out there, he'll grab an arm, he'll hit the guy's arm 3 or 4 times, run him in, give him an elbow, pick him up, hit him 3 or 4 times in the head, pick him up, kick him in the stomach 3 or 4 times, stomp his toe, boom, give him a chop, or 2 on the chest, slap him on his chest like that's gonna hurt something. If a guy slapped me the way they slap people on his chest, he'd think I was MMA after he slapped me. You know, I'd take him to the ground real quick. And, you know, no storyline. You can't, I mean...
They try and do a lot of comedy stuff.
Yeah, and, you know, people not there to see comedy. They don't mind a little high spot every once in a while, but they want to believe. That's why they're coming there to pay that big bucks. They want to believe. And if you can't make them believe... Herb Welch told me one time, he said, David, nobody out there can feel how hard you hit this guy with a thumb in his throat. All they can see is you going for it. You know, they can't feel it. It's up to this guy to make them feel it. And if he goes down and does his job, they'll feel it. And they'll start coming in the ring on you. And all you did is just, you know, I mean, it takes 2 guys to make a match, you know. And that's what I can't get over to these young guys when I talk to them. I try to talk to them, and you know, I trained them for about 10 years, wrestlers. And people are hard-headed, man. They come out there with the attitude they know more than you already. And then you got to show them they don't know more than you. And then you try to teach them how, you know, and they still think they know better. And I just say, who am I trying to tell you what to do, man? I mean, you know, I've never been in 1 or 2 matches in my life. I've been main event all over the world, and I'm trying to give you some knowledge. You don't want to accept it. I mean, what do you want to do? You know, and then I want to put my boots on and go out. But I've calmed down a lot in these old days, you know, older days.
Now, I know you said on Steve Austin's podcast you did enjoy watching him. Would he have been one of the last guys that you actually liked from this era?
Yes. I like Steve. I liked him in the ring. I liked him on his interviews, and he was almost take off of me. You know, I mean, people always say that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But Steve is, you know, he's a good guy. I mean, I love the way he does this Broken Skull wrench, you know. I always wanted to call him, well, I want to come try that, Steve. No, just like MMA and pro wrestling, I won't make it through the first one. And, you know, and them guys, let me tell you now, that Broken Skull wrench, they could get some mighty good athletes or people or whatever off of that show that go through there. Those boys are in good shape. And then you see the little skinny guy that won it, and nobody can beat him. Never lifted a weight in his life. He's a professional obstacle runner or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But anyway.
That reminds me, for wrestling, now you see champions that wrestle in T-shirts. And
oh, yeah, blue jeans.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I tell you, I very seldom, like I said, if it's accidentally on, I'll watch it.
You'd probably rip the guy's shirt off if someone came to the ring in a t-shirt.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great gimmick. He come in a t-shirt, he wouldn't leave with it, and they come in with jeans on, and I guess they come in with jeans on because they're too fat. They can't get no tights to,
Or they're too skinny to show their legs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, one thing I was pretty surprised at from reading your book is you're actually good friends with Eddie Mansfield from the 2020.
Well,
or he says you are anyways in his blurb.
He says Eddie is a guy that, he's a nice guy. We was tag team partners one time. And Eddie is a lot of talk. Wants to have a lot of actions, but he just got a lot of talk. He means well, and I don't know if he's living in a fantasy world or whatever, but I finally told him the other day, I said, Eddie, I'm through, man. You can't get nothing done. I've been trying to get this bail jumpers started,
right.
A bounty hunting show.
Because you were on hard copy, right? And there was some interest in having a TV show, so he put together this bail jumpers.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's just... now I'm meeting with Joel Eisenberg. I believe it's the 16th. He's coming down to Nashville. He's the one that wrote the original script, Bail Jumpers, and he's out of California. And that's what he does, is put shows together and find people and put projects and people together with the directors and producer and all that, whatever he does. I think that's what he was telling me.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's more complicated than that. But I'm just about, I think that'd be a great show, the Bail Jumper show. Doc's Law, both of them was been out for years and years, and nobody's jumped on it.
The Bounty Hunter was very successful. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Yep, sure did. And
do you think that was more his show, or do you think he was?
Which one was that?
The Bounty Hunter.
No. the dog Bounty Hunter show. I don't watch it, but what I did watch of him, he wants to bless everybody and give them commandments and make them, all this here. I don't know if he went to Mexico and went to jail, got that one guy. It ain't hard to go to Mexico and pick up a guy because you're not supposed to do it, so the guy's not running, I imagine he would have been pretty good if he hadn't had all them other yahoos around him. But I've never met him, but he must be doing something good. He got a TV show.
Yeah.
That's what
So you're having a meeting in Nashville later this month about your TV show, possible TV
show. Yes. I've got a couple meetings coming up about it, and if something don't happen about it, I'll just leave it hanging because, Dick Clark hung on to it for 3 or 4 years, and finally they made me an offer. They wanted to do it, but they wanted to give me a percentage of the profits. And I said, no, I'm not interested in that. There ain't no profits. Here we go wrestling again. But it's the book is doing great, and they can get this book on Amazon, or they can get it on EatSleepWrestle.com. That's John Cosper, the author. He's got a website. You can get it there. And I noticed that Amazon actually lowered the price on it. I don't know why. I was never asked about it, but that's fine. I'll still get my couple dollars. But it's not that anymore. I gave more away. I go to the senior citizen centers, and I leave a couple there, and they share them and read them, and they love it,
Yeah.
And everybody, I've never had anybody tell me that it wasn't a good book. It's like...
I'm going to have to read it again, too, because I read it quickly to prepare for this, but I feel that I'll get more out of it the second time.
You will. My wife read it 4 times, and John Cosper said, he wanted to have it proofread. I said, well, my wife was a proofreader, you know, she's a private investigator, and she was a proofreader. He said, well, have her read it. So she read it and come out with 4 or 5 pages of mistakes, misspellings, different things, you know. And he corrected them, he gave it back to her, she read it again, come out with 4 or 5 more pages. He said, wow. He said, I got a professional guy that does my proofreading over in England. I'm going to send it to him. So after he got through with it, he sent it back to her. She come out with 3 more pages. And I said, John, you need to fire that guy in England. But she done a great job, and she said she read it 4 times. She said, David, I lived this life with you. We've been married 48 years, the end of this month. And she said, I've lived this life and even went with you on these pickups, and I still could not put the book down. I wanted to see what was going to happen. And even though I know what was going to happen, I just wanted to see how it was going to read, you know, about it happening. And she said, I think it's fantastic, you know. And that's before we...
And she's not the woman from your WWE vignettes, for anyone watching this.
Do what now? I'm sorry.
She's not the same wife from your WWE vignettes.
Oh, no. That was a rental. That was a rental girl.
Many people think that that was your actual family. So
yeah, they thought it was. And the way I heard it, the WWF, Vince McMahon, the sheriff's department come to Vince McMahon's office that Monday morning after that show, those Tuesday Night Titans or Friday Night Titans, whatever it was, Thursday Night Titans.
Tuesday Night Titans, I think.
And they come to the office with warrants for my arrest, and they was going to take my wife and kid and charge me with spousal abuse and child abuse for the kids. And Ben said, whoa, wait a minute, this is a show. This is entertainment.
Yeah.
That's not even his wife and kids. And that's how people, how they believed it, you know.
Right.
And
my daughter is very successful too, right?
Yeah. My daughter's, you know, I got 2 great grandkids, and couldn't be, you know, I've been really, I worked hard. I really worked hard for this business, to keep this business going. Now, the way it's going, it makes you want to say, you know, wipe your hands with it, just forget it. Because I spent my whole life, and you know, I feel that Vince McMahon, now this is what I feel, this is my opinion, Vince McMahon deprives the American people and the people of the world of seeing me, the greatest pro wrestler probably of all time, grow up in the wrestling business and perform. If I was remembered as good as I am today, what would it have been if I'd stayed there another 30 years?
How old were you when that happened, when you were released? Because you were just hitting your peak.
35, 32. Yeah.
Right in your peak years for a wrestler, 35 to 40.
Oh yeah, I was ready. I mean, I was, you know, and I think that's one thing that he was worried about too, that I mean, you know, let me tell you, I always did what the man said. My handshake is better than gold. If I tell you something, that's it. You can find nobody that'll tell you that I lied to him or I told him I'd do something and I didn't do it. I never missed a show, never missed a match. No matter how injured I was, I always made it. And I mean, I made it to the matches when I couldn't stand up. They'd have to help me in the ring. And I'd stand in the corner and work the whole match in the corner. The guy'd come to the corner and, you know, I'd start beating him and I'd do the whole 15 minutes there standing in the corner because I couldn't walk across the ring. But I made the show because people don't believe you get hurt. And if you don't show up, you know, like my good buddy, Bill Dundee, I'm upset with you, Dundee. I'm coming for you, boy. I'm sorry, I got him all nervous and shook up, but you know, well, Lawler would be the same way. You know, if he heard I was going to be somewhere where he was, you know, he would, it's a shame that grown men start shaking when I come around. But you know what else? It's a shame. I can't say it's a shame, but the women, a lot of tears in these women's eyes when I walk out too. When I leave the arenas, I don't know why. They just, you know. I'm just joking now.
And one thing you wrote about WWE in your book too was that I guess you're not actually supposed to be in their encyclopedias or anything like that.
No.
Because there's something in your settlement where they're not supposed to use your
Never, ever. They're never, ever supposed to use my picture, likeness, or anything else of me ever again. Or they can't sell them to people to use it. I don't say nothing about it because, you know, you can't fight a billionaire if you're not a billionaire. And I'm not even in the, I can't even pay the taxes on it. You know, I mean, you know what I mean? I just can't fight a billionaire. And he's going to do what he wants to do. He's got too many lawyers and he's too spoiled. You know what I am going to do though? I'm going to put my hunting boots on and I'm going hunting because I got a lot of things I need to get settled because, you know, I'm easing down that old hill to leave this rock one day soon. Not that soon, I hope, but it's coming. And I want to get all these things settled, and I got some people I need to settle up with, so I'm going on the hunt. I'm going to start hunting them down and see if I can't get all this stuff settled.
And if someone wants to book you for an autograph appearance or to show up at a pro wrestling show for a meet and greet or something, how would they go about doing that?
They could get in touch with me on EatSleepWrestle.com, John Cosper, or they can actually get through a lot of ways. You know, I don't believe people can't get a hold of me, but Amazon, in the book there, John Cosper is the best way to get a hold of me, or they can get a hold of me. Just look up Dr. D, David Schultz, and you know, they can get a hold of me that way. There's a Facebook page that they can get a hold of me, and but John Cosper would be the best way. EatSleepWrestle.com. It's a website that we use for the book and the writings that John has several other books. He's the author, you know, of the book, and a nice guy, nice family man, and they can call him or send an email there, or they get a hold of Nick Matthews. He knows how to get a lot of promoters know how to get a hold of me. Most of them though, when they call me, yeah, they think I'm too expensive. And you know, I don't get paid by a website. I don't, you know, a lot of these guys come out here and I ask them, why are you, you know, I just like seeing the fans and stuff, but you know, I'm not going to spend my own money to get there and go in the hole to go sign some autographs. I mean, but it's going real good though. I don't mind going doing book signings and all that, and you know, it may come up I have to climb back in the ring. Who knows? I had to get back on my special diet.
And just to wind this down here, you're definitely one of the greatest promo guys in wrestling of all time, without question.
I appreciate that.
Anyone can look that up on YouTube. Do you have any advice for any wrestlers watching this on cutting good promo, especially as a heel?
Well, yeah. Remember that, you know, you're just entertainers. You're exhibitionists. You're cartoon characters. You're not real killer wrestlers. And when you're talking to people out there, realize that. And realize you're giving them a show. And if you want to put yourself over, be honest with these people. And, you know, if you're going to talk, be able to back up the talk. Don't come out there and talk about what you're going to do to somebody if you're not able to back it up. But, you know, it just feels like you're talking to nobody when you talk to these guys because they don't listen anyway. But I know one thing, if I have to come out there and tell you guys, if I have to get my tights on and get my elbow pad, my knee pads, and my boots on to come out there and show you guys, you're going to wish that you listened to me. I'm telling you, I'm not talking to hear my heartbeat. Straighten up, or I'm going to put my boots on and I'm going to come for you. And when I catch you, I'm going to wrap these mamas around your neck and I'm going to squeeze them tight until the straddle of the night. And you're going to scream and yell. I'm sorry, I got carried away. I'm just,
And finally, for any of your fans that have watched this for 2 hours, is there any message you want to say to them to close this off?
Yes, I want. Let me tell you, my fans, all the fans out there, they don't have to, my fans, they hate me, they love to hate me, they hate to love me, or whatever. But the fans know when they come to see me, they get satisfied. I'm talking about when they go home, they're not going home and whining and crying because they went out and spent $20, $50 or whatever. They're going home and say, man, that was great. He was great. He did a good job. I enjoyed that, And that's what it's all about. The fans need to be enjoying this. And, and like we were speaking about the MMA, MMA, watch some of those tapes. Those guys, the people enjoy watching these guys because they're great, and they're starting to be a little entertainers too, but they're still tough guys. But and the wrestler sat back and said, I'm the king, I can do what I want, I'm the queen or whatever, and no. They better straighten up, or there's not going to be no wrestling business. The MMA is going to take over everything. Hate to say that, but got to be honest.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us, and good luck with your book and your bounty hunting.
Thank you for having me, and you're going to hear more from me because I'm going to get my boots on. Like I said, I got to go hunting.